You touched upon it before, but it's this idea of being able to work with people from so many kind of varied backgrounds and disciplines.
Yeah.
And how, I'm guessing, I've seen this in the restaurant industry, the amount of kind of cross-disciplinary collaborations that are now going on compared to, let's say, 15, 20 years ago. You didn't have chefs really working with people from so many other disciplines, but now chefs are going out and working with people in music and art and design.
Yes.
Have you found, how has that kind of transformed the process of what you do?
In many ways, it makes it more complicated in terms of orchestrating everybody. That's the reality, the physical reality, and trying to create a cohesive and continuous story and narrative and concept that you're creating. So it requires a better understanding of how to creatively direct as a designer, because in all our projects we will be the creative lead who will orchestrate and lead the rest of the creatives, whoever they are and wherever background they come from, minus obviously the chefs. They're guiding us, and then from that we take on and lead everybody else. So on a practical level, it makes it more complicated. We now sit on teams of, to set up a single restaurant of 12 to 14 people. And I've got clients who are startups, and they're like, really? Do we need that many people? I'm like, yes, you do. And it makes it a bigger investment, a bigger project. But at the same time, in the how many years? In the 17 years I've been running the studio, I've seen already the transformation that this industry has gone through in terms of how competitive it has become and how much design and experience has become much more central than it used to be 17 years ago. So everybody has to up their game, and that results in stronger, better concepts. What's fascinating about every single project, because no matter what we're working on, I always try to think, who else can we bring on the team to enrich what we do, to enrich our knowledge? Sometimes it might be a great artist, for example, or a great illustrator, or a great music person, or, for example, we're designing a new coffee chain that will launch internationally, with the first location being in Luxembourg for a big operator. And I said to them, you know what, I really think for what you guys do is really important. You have amazing music. It's not always very important, but for this concept, it's extremely important. And I remember speaking to the client, and he said, oh my God, it's almost like you've read my mind. That's exactly what I've been thinking. And I said, okay, don't worry, we'll add it in what we will do, and we will need to go out there and find somebody who has a really great approach to music and can do something really special with this. And to me, that's always a challenge, because and the interest in every project, there will always be something new for us to learn, or somebody new to work with. It might be a great, all sorts of different people. And that's what keeps every project different and interesting, in my opinion, because you always have something to learn. And I always used to think a project has to either teach me something new, or I work with great people, or I make an awful lot of money. If it's none of the above, or at least two of the above, then I shouldn't be taking a project on. If it's only one of the above, sometimes it's not enough, It's not enough to get a project that's just well paid. It's not enough to get a project where the team is great, but you don't learn anything new, you're not challenged. I think the restaurant industry needs to deshackle itself from this idea, this notion that the only designer you need on a restaurant is an interior designer. I think that's part of the problem now, that the majority of people still associate creative design input on a restaurant coming directly from an interior design agency or architecture agency, and nothing beyond that. They don't realize. And although our studio, for example, is multidisciplinary and we preach the opposite, there's still a whole group of people who don't even understand that. They don't get it at all. They think, oh, but why? All I need is somebody to design the space. And it's like, yeah, great, but the space is beyond the interior design fit out. There's other things contained within that space. Who will take care of these things? Who will take care of the acoustics of the space, you know, the soundtrack of the space. And suddenly they're like, oh, I'll do that by myself. Or so do you see what I mean? The minute the industry realizes that you need a different approach and a different skill set and a different group of people to put these places together, which, as I said, it is already happening. But the minute people get it and understand it becomes common everyday practice, we will not be able to get that powerful experience. Or if it happens, it will be as a gut response rather than something that's planned and organized. And it's happening as a gut response because a lot of restaurateurs are just great creatives, you know, and they will do it. So, you know, you might be a great chef, you're a creative, you know, when you set up your restaurant, how you want it to look and feel and what smell it should have. You know that. If you were to open tomorrow a restaurant, you would have a very strong vision. I'm 100% convinced. And this is the positive thing. And you would approach it in this multisensorial way, because you're immersed into this world anyhow, but any chef would, because they kind of understand that inherently. But the problem is that there's a lot of restaurants which are not created by a creative or a visionary or a chef. They're created by a hotel group or a big corporate, and there's nobody leading that, and that's where it starts falling apart. And then they think, oh, all we need is a great interior design, and then we're sorted, and it's not enough. You really need to step up. You really need to understand that it's an experience, and to design an experience, you need a group of people, not just an interior designer.